Hey guys, it's Lori. Midweek thoughts. When we find we are unhappy, what do? Well, a lot of times we don't do the right things. We'll start watching TV or YouTubes or, our phones and play games and, we avoid it. We avoid the feeling. We try to, but it doesn't go away when we avoid it. So there has to come a point where, you need to address, why am I unhappy? Is it because you don't like your job? Is it because you don't uh, like the restraints on your life? You don't make enough money to do this or that, or you really have to sit down with it. And the only way to really sit down with it is to do it in silence. And go sit out in the yard without your phone and sit by a tree if you can. But physically touch the earth. If you have to use a stick, a walking stick or something, you can have a stick in the ground and hold on to it. Some people have a real phobia about putting their bare feet on the dirt, but I don't. But some people do, so that helps if you do have that phobia. But the point is that you have to cut out a couple hours a day at least for yourself in silence, depending on how unhappy you are, so that you can really get in tune with, why are you unhappy? Is it because of some of the stuff you see off the boob tube or off the internet? Are you watching a lot of negative stuff? Are you listening to a lot of negative stuff? There's a lot of that AM radio going on too. FM radio. Shoot, I turned that on the other day and I thought, oh Lord. I quit watching TV years ago. And I just got tired of the stupid, absurd bullshit. And I think everybody else is feeling about that way right about now. And as far as the politics, well, I think we're all tired of that too, because we can see that it's just a dog and pony show. They're doing all kinds of stuff behind our back. We don't know what it is. And yet we feel so depressed by all the news and everything else that, we aren't looking at what's really going on and trying to get to the bottom of it. But even if you feel hopeless in that area, at least, get out and vote and try to know what some of the issues really are, not the propaganda crap they're always throwing at us. But to get out into quiet. If you can only start with 15 minutes a day, do it 15 minutes a day. Try to build up to an hour or two. For one, the earth will help ground you back into positive energy. It'll take the negative off of you. It'll ground it. And you'll start feeling free again. You'll start feeling your inner self again. That inner self is what they're trying to disconnect you from. It's your inner self, that gut feeling that will come in. We're all used to it when it's a dangerous situation. But that intuitive self is actually your true soul self. That's your direct link to source. And we're all an integral part of source. So get to know it. It takes time. And at first you may not want to meditate. Just deep breathe. Sit in nature and deep breathe. And just talk to God. Talk to source. God is who, or if you're an atheist, talk to the universe. It'll hear you. Act like it's a machine, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you feel good. It's real. I'm just going to tell you it's real. I don't care how you look at it or how you want to package it. It's real. You are real as well. And you're important. Everyone on the planet is just as important as the other. And it's important you find what your soul is trying to pull your attention to. Is your sorrow, your sadness, is it valid? Number one. And number two, is it yours? Number three, let's try to ground it and get rid of it so we can get to the core of whatever it is that you need to know about you. Because that's all this life is about, is you. It's, yes, we share our lives with people. And we share them rather falsely, actually, because we don't understand what being authentic is. And authentic is actually getting to the core self, the soul, and seeing what the soul wanted to experience and how it wanted to observe those experiences, not get lost in them. And so many of us do that, you know, the little hamster cage we get going on. Hell, I did it for so long, I thought I was going to kill myself. Not literally, but I mean, you know, I thought I was locked in doom and gloom for I don't know how long, and fear and all that. And people that come from abusive situations do get scared, even when they're away from this situation. They don't realize they're scared. And sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. But it's getting to the root of what you are. What are you holding on to that you're unhappy about? What are you holding on to that you're afraid of? How are you afraid? Are you afraid to quit drinking? Are you afraid to quit drugs? Are you afraid to stop some horrible habit? Like I smoke, I still haven't gotten rid of that. Mostly I'm working on, you know, negative thinking about myself. But anyway, we all have something. And I'm just telling you, these are the ways I found to get to the core, the quickest, easiest, and most loving way. I believe in source. I believe in the super consciousness, is what I like to call it, but I call it source for short. And God, and the goddess, because I've met her too. And the thing is that it's extremely real. And we are all an integral part of it, every last one of us. And so what we need to do is find out what our soul wants to do with these learning lessons. Find a good hypnotherapist. It will really, really help get to the core of your problem. But get centered first. Get washed away. You know, take showers. Take ice cold showers if you can. Rinse off with ice cold water till you get really cold. And it will help reset your body and your energy field. And walk in nature. And if you have to use a walking stick, you know, that's fine, because the energy will come up the stick and come into your hand. The left is your receiving, so you want to use your left hand when you're walking with it. It's just better. But get centered with yourself. Find out what you really want. What is that little yearning inside that's causing you to be able to be touched and triggered by society? What you see going on. Because if you look at it really good, it's real absurd. I mean, it has to be an act. It's unbelievable. And so my opinion is that it is something that's supposed to be gearing us into looking deeper inside of ourselves, going, hey, this is ridiculous. I don't even believe I have this bullshit. God, what do I do? What is this? And what's wrong with me? What do I need to do to change my world? And that starts a relationship with you and Source. You can't do this at church. I'm sorry. Churches are good for worshiping. That's it. And it's good to worship, and it's good to worship with like-minded people. I'm not putting churches down. They have their place. But your soul and your relationship with Source, God, Goddess, all it is a personal relationship. And it should be treated that way, which means you have to go every day at the same time. And if you can't meditate at first, that's okay. You can talk to God, because God will find a way to answer you. And if you can just deep breathe, just change your breathing, deep breathe, relax. Tell God, you know what? Let your shoulders down and say, you know what? I give up, God. I don't give up on my life. I give up on trying to figure this out by myself. I need a little help. And boy, it's on it. And you'll start seeing wonders happen. I like the wonders. I like the glimmers, they call them sometimes. You know, the happy, cool things that happen during a day. Sometimes I call them all miracles, because I think miracles are cool and I think they're magical. And I like, you know, I'm kind of a fantasy lover. So I like the idea of magic. God's magical. And I use it a lot. I use it mostly just in day-to-day life. I just use it as, You know, if I'm struggling with, oh, for instance, I was at work and I was running an hour and a half late for work because I overslept. And I was on the longest run of my day that I was almost always late getting back to the shop floor. And my boss didn't like me being late. And here I am an hour and a half late getting started. I get halfway there. It's a over 4.5 hour drive there. And I had to pull over and take a 45-minute nap because I was exhausted. I have trouble with fatigue syndrome and adrenal syndrome. And so I thought, oh, Lord, you know, and I started to get real worried. And I kept telling myself, even when I was on my way to work and then on my way to the job, no, God's got my time. God's got my time. And when I had to pull over, because you don't want to fall asleep at the wheel, so you got to pull over and got to go to sleep. Set an alarm for 45 minutes. And 45 minutes went by, and I got up, and I headed back down there. And I still had two extra runs to make on the way back because they were added to my schedule. And I thought, oh, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Anyway, I just kept saying, God's got my time. I'm not going to worry about this. God's got my time. And I got back a half hour early than normal. So when you put your life in God's hands, whether it's time because you're running late, whether it's money because you just don't know if you got enough to get through the month, just say, God's got my money. I ain't worried about it. God's got my bills. I'm not worried about it. God's got my food. God's got my car. He's got my kids. He's got my family. He's got my house. He's got my everything. Whatever it is you're feeling tense or insecure. But the thing I'm telling you the story for is I want you to practice it. I want you to start using it. That's one of the best ways to start feeling and seeing and eyewitnessing and experiencing God working in your life, and that you are important to God. And oh, Lord, you're so important. And you know, God didn't demand all these traditions and sins and stuff that they preach in most of the religions. God said, I made you the way you are because I wanted to experience life through these eyes. I wanted to observe it through your eyes. And I'm always with you and helping you through it because I wanted to experience it through you. So he created us, and he created us all uniquely different for a reason. Because our emotions and our mental makeup is each different a little bit. And he wanted to experience it in every possibility that he could. Or she could. It could. So it doesn't leave you. It's always with you. Yeah, we just don't understand that, and we don't understand the validity and because they put shame and guilt in there, and the religion's so bad, especially Christianity, that you're scared to death to be who you really are, and you're scared to death to talk to God about it in all honesty. So whatever it is, you can talk to God about. We have laws throughout the whole universe, especially for breaking the law and stuff like that, killing and all that. But when it comes to your soul's experience, if you feel guilty about something, talk to God. I don't think there's anything that isn't unforgivable. Not really. Not for the average person. And there's some unique souls out there that, well, their karma will more than make up for anything God could do to them. And, but you need to understand that we came here to learn from our experiences, and we actually wanted some of these piss poor experiences that we've had. And trust me, I really questioned all that for a lot of years. But I never questioned God. I questioned the experiences, and finally I got yelled at from some of the other powerful ones. Would you try to look at it as a lesson, an experience, a lesson, instead of something, you know, an attack at you? Oh, well, yeah, I guess I could. So really look at it that way. It isn't personal. It's not an attack on you. It's a lesson for you to see how life is, how you responded, and could you have responded better? If there was nothing else you could do, there was nothing else you could do. But you need to forgive yourself for not being able to do something different. I think that's where a lot of childhood CPTSD comes in, and trauma. That because I have that. We fail to understand that it really wasn't our fault. But children don't think that way. Children think it's their own fault and that they're don't have any value, and they're petrified all the time. I was scared of everything in life. I didn't want to do anything, and I was scared because I didn't think I was good enough. Everything I did was wrong by one parent. The other parent, yeah, same thing, just handled differently. And but you have to look at those things, and you have to look at them and see where they came from and see where their parents came from. And Jesus, it's real easy to forgive them because you know what? It's a learned apparatus, their behaviors. And because they didn't know how to deal and heal their lives, that all bled over to us. So forgive them, let it go, even if they're horrendous. You don't have to forgive them to their face. No, that's up to them and God. But you have to forgive them in your own heart so they don't, live in your mind anymore. You can let it go. Then forgive yourself because you didn't know any better, and you couldn't have done anything anyway. You were too little, usually. And know that you are good enough. And there's always something that you're really, really good at. So find it. Start finding things that you're really good at and enjoy them to their fullest. Become the best at something. Find something you really love, something that intrigues the shit out of you, and become the best at it. That's one of the ways to get unhappy. That and talking to God and letting the universe prove to you it exists and it is there to help you understand things and to help you get things and to become things. You'd be amazed at how much, once you heal, how much there is available to you to become. You can download just about any template you want for anything you want to be. I know one quantum jumper, he wanted to be a successful oil artist, like Michelangelo or somebody. So he quantum jumped to where that's what he was doing. Every possibility exists. All you do is make a mind shift. That's what you want, and that's what you're going to have. But you got to do the healing first. And you got to be centered in love because it's easier to shift if you're centered in love. And love's a big word. We use it for romance, we use it for this, we use it for that, we use it for mom and dad, and we think they're gods when we're little. And then we got to get older and find out, the hell, they ain't gods, they're people. They're real people, and they came from other real people instead of gods. And, because we look up to them because we're little. So start the journey of healing. It will open up so many avenues for you, and get a good hypnotherapist if you're getting stuck on certain things, because you'll see it and observe it as a third person. And as you do that, it's a lot easier to heal from some of the most traumatic trauma that happens to children, whether it be sexual or whatever. It's usually sexual. So, but do it because you see it as a third person. It doesn't hurt you again, and you make it, and then you understand where it come from, where these feelings are coming from. That's all you need to get to, because that's all that's stopping you. And the self-talk. It'll be easier to change the self-talk once you heal the inner child. And I'll have a special on how to do the inner child healing, some of it. And anyway, but that's what my midweek thoughts are for this week. Let the universe prove to you, like God is all that is, source, the machine, whatever you want to call it. Let it prove to you it exists and it works for you. And that sometimes when we're unhappy, it's not really the relationship. If we're in a relationship or we have a family, It's the brunt of taking on the responsibility, which is what we're supposed to do, but doing it in a way that was the best money instead of the best life for self and for family. Sometimes having all the money in the world does not make up for having a little shack and playing cards with your friends on the weekends and just laughing and cutting up and listening to radio. Or making your own music. There is a big difference in fulfillment of the heart. And sometimes we lose track of that. The more money we make, the more we're tied up, and the more we work. So sit down and think about what really has you unhappy and uncomfortable and you know, just not quite all there for everybody. Because when you're unhappy, you cannot possibly be there for any of the people in your life. And presence is real important, especially when you have children. And you need to be there for them and your wife or your husband, you know, or you know, your partner. So think about those things. I love you and have a good week. Talk to you later. Lori out.